Hey.
Okay, we are back. Sorry if it's going to be the most awkward edit ever because I didn't realize that Jill was frozen until it was way too late. But you were saying something about we see people with all these habits and thinking, it's not for me.
Welcome. Good thing I did my rant about technology because that just proves my point right there. But yeah, I think we see all these people with like their habits and their routines and stuff like that, but we also think we're not like qualified or worthy or whatever it may be to have those same routines. Like I get it all the time on TikTok where people are like, oh, I wish I could be this way with my nutrition, or I wish I could be this like you can be. It might not look exactly the same, but you still deserve routines and habits that make you feel good, and you deserve nutrition that supports your body, however that may look. So that idea of like, oh, I'm not busy enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not training hard enough, or whatever is irrelevant. Like you deserve nutrition and habits that support your life in the way you want it to be.
Yeah, 100%. Off topic. How am I going to stitch this together to go on YouTube?
That's fine. YouTube's easy. You just like
you might get a part 1 and you might get a part 2. This is part 2.
YouTube's easy peasy. You'll just drag and drop the clips together and they'll make one video.
Can you do that?
Oh, yeah. I'll show you if I need to. I used to be a YouTuber. I am not
anymore. Web of lies. I know nothing about you.
Briefly, I had a YouTube career. It wasn't a career. Briefly, I wanted to have a YouTube career, and then I gave up. So.
Not me going to YouTube to immediately find it.
They might all be privated, but I do have a few videos on there, I think. If anyone ever wants to go for a creep, once upon a time, I used to post on YouTube. But yeah, getting back to nutrition specifically, I think she kind of answered her question in itself too. Like her saying, I'm not sick or pregnant, is kind of having to rationalize with yourself. Like, is there a reason I don't want to eat right now? Or am I just like, I just don't want to? Like, am I not feeling good? Is something else going on? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, well, we need to figure out what's going to work for right now. Make the best decision you can in your current circumstance. And yeah, defaulting to those convenience foods can be really handy. I know for myself, as a busy human, as an ADHD brain, I need those quick, easy things in my like fridge and freezer that are like no effort, no thinking needed default foods. Does that make sense? Like I don't have to be like, oh, how am I going to make this meal? I can just be like, okay, I know plain Greek yogurt, protein powder with some fruit hits what I need. Or I know throwing a couple, like I always keep some sort of frozen chicken in my freezer. So whether it's like a chicken nugget, whatever, like something like that. I got the turkey sausages from Costco that you have, which I'm actually like pretty big fan of them. Like those are easy to just be like, I need a protein, I need a carb, I need a fat. Yeah. It doesn't have to be pretty or presentable, but having those foods that you know check those boxes can be really handy.
And I think that brings up another point, is that good enough is good enough. You don't have to have these fancy, like you don't have to go through this whole like hour of cooking, meal prep, whatever. I remember I love convenience food, like those turkey sausages, like those have changed my breakfast world for the better. I remember a client once asked me, is it okay if I have like, like a frozen meal? And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't it be? And she's like, well, like it's frozen. And I was like, okay. So
better than no food.
Do you mean you always have something in your freezer that you could easily make in a pinch? Wow. That's terrible. You know what I mean? Like when you rephrase it like that, and convenience foods are not inherently bad. Like they might have, like typically on average, they probably have a bit more sodium, but you know what? Your body needs sodium. So that's okay, right? Like I very, 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 very seldom have I heard of anybody saying like they need to cut back on their salt for like X health reasons. I think salt got a bad rap in like the early 2000s, and I think people are stuck on it. It's kind of like fats, right? And then avocados came around and people were like, oh my God, avocados. And then, but like you're allowed to eat salt. You're allowed to have things that have salt in them. You're allowed to have things that have sugar in them. You're allowed to have carbs, like all of those things. They're not bad for you, right? Nothing really is bad for you except food that is expired. And even then, they're talking about removing best before dates off milk. So it's like YOLO, like, I don't know. Like maybe
I'm literally the worst with expired.
Like it's a
I'm like,
Russian roulette of milk.
I'm like, is this expired? Yeah. Does it smell bad? No. Okay, we'll risk it. Like, in this economy, I'm risking it. Don't know what to tell you. But I do want to say, which not everyone will love, but that's okay. I just spent the last 2 weeks getting yelled at on the internet. You can't hurt my feelings right now. It's fine. Although I did get my feelings hurt slightly on the internet yesterday because someone commented and was like, I'm not going to take advice from someone who's overweight. And I said, not that there's anything wrong with being overweight, but you can literally see my abs in the video. So I was like, oh, okay. But anywho.
You have to have a conversation about how somebody's body size doesn't reflect on their brain capacity.
Crazy. But I will say, I don't want you to strive for, well, it's good enough 24/7, like that good enough and it'll do, and something's better than nothing. Also needs to be reserved for the times you need those mindsets and those shifts and things like that. Like if day in and day out, like there's phases of life where good enough is good enough. But I also don't want that to be your like everyday forever, because you're probably not going to be super thrilled being like, well, I did good enough all the time. So there is like, take advantage of the moments, especially with nutrition and workouts, where you're like excited to cook and excited to work out and like do a little extra on those days and leave the it's good enough for the days you actually need it. Did that make sense coming out of my brain?
Yes. But I would also say, like, be mindful if you're like, wow, I feel like I've been in a good enough phase for like, let's say 2 years since you had a baby or something like that, because sometimes good enough lasts a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the best you can do, I don't want you to be like, well, it's been a long time since I've had a stellar day. That's okay. That's okay. Because one day you're going to look back and be like, man, today was stellar. Things are turning around. And it might be as you come out of that fog of new parenthood or, some other big life event that's, kind of rocked your world in the way that you knew it. And that's okay. Like, it can be a long-term thing, because achieving more might not be it for you right now.
And I agree. I just don't think that should be like the ultimate.
Oh no,
we're striving for. It's like, I just want things to be good enough for the rest of my life. Like eventually we need a phase of like, okay, let's see what else we can do now.
Yeah. No, I totally think that. But I also think that like, it might be hard to see the forest through the trees at some point. And that's really a really hard thing for, I think, parents like myself who were sort of like above average athletes, or, like took their nutrition kind of seriously. And then all of a sudden you're like, how many times is it okay to give a toddler peanut butter a day? Right. And you're like, well, like, it's not bad, I guess. Right. Like, and if that's all that they'll eat, then that's all that they'll eat. Like, that's kind of where you're at. So like, I would say like, just do your best that's available to you on the day. Mm-hmm. And that is all that we can truly ask for you from a nutrition standpoint, from an exercise standpoint, from a life standpoint. Just give it a good try.
Yeah. And I think that comes with aligning your goals with what you have space for.
Oh, yes.
I know we've talked about before, like if you're a parent of a toddler and you have a million things going on, just make sure the goals you have for yourself make sense for that phase of your life too, or you're going to leave yourself disappointed a lot. Versus if you're me, a single 20-something-year-old with a dog and a business as her two responsibilities, I got more time to like put more effort into things, and I would be silly to not take advantage of that as well. Obviously, I have my bad mental health days and the days where good enough is good enough, but I'm also not trying to make that my everyday life.
Yeah, I think choosing goals or choosing your focus based on what is realistically achievable to you in the season of life that you're in is really important.
And I think we talked about that too in the like parenting yourself episode. Like some days you're just going to have to be like, if you want more, you want better for your nutrition, you want better for your workouts, you want better for yourself, whatever it may be, at some point you're going to have to buckle down and just get it done and add the habits and do the dang thing, or else it's always just going to be good enough. And if you're not willing to like buckle down and put in the habits, feed yourself, even if you don't want to, cook yourself dinner, even if you don't really want to, you're going to have to be okay with those goals being okay also.
Yeah, totally. I don't think I have any more to add. I think that pretty much sums it up. A little bit of tough love, a little bit of realistic mindset shifts, yeah. I think.
And we say this all the time, use the convenience foods when you need to. That's why they're made. That's why protein powder exists. That's why frozen foods exist. Like, we live in a world where we're very go, go, go all the time. So if you know you're not going to have a ton of time to dedicate towards cooking 3 times a day, make sure you're making the best choices with the other food you have in your house. Like, I get comments all the time on TikTok being like, even if I don't work out, should I be using a protein powder, or is a protein powder beneficial for me? If you know you're not getting enough protein day to day, and a protein powder is the difference between you getting it and not, use the protein powder. It's going to be fine. Just don't only consume protein through protein powder. But convenience foods and supplements were created for a reason.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. There's no bar that you have to be at in order to be like, to justify protein powder.
You can now purchase a protein powder if you work out.
Yeah, you don't have to show them a card or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. So if you need some tough love on something, or you have another question, feel free to leave us a voice memo as always, or leave us a DM in the on the gram. You can also, if you listen on Spotify, you can also answer a question from like directly in Spotify. And I have been changing them up lately. So if you want to answer it, we will get the responses and check it out. But if you don't know where that is, at Lattes and Lifting Podcast on Instagram. If you're not following me, follow me already, please. It's at JLack Fitness.
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at CoachJill.April. If you ever need a good laugh, just click on my most recent viral video and go through the comments, because I can always promise you there'll be a good giggle in there. Yeah.
Perfect. Can't wait. All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.